Chapter 1. You are listening at FameTV.info. The sun came in through the cracks of the worn tan curtains, and the fresh air in the morning washed away the boredom in the small attic a little. Maybe it's because it's too close to the sea. The humidity here is still as high as ever. Even in the attic, moss still climbs wantonly in the corner, expanding their territory, leaving inexplicable vitality, when men in London are still holding their wives. Or lovers. In bed, this may be, in short, when those guys were still sleeping in soft beds, the people of Toboint were busy. This is the morning of the port city. Not long after just giving up last night's drunkenness, it once again ushered in a new round of noise and busyness, as if people didn't need sleep. Of course, all these vibrant pictures must have nothing to do with the residents of Temo Lane. Maka is a resident of this dark alley east of Toboint. Although he was born in Plymouth, what does it matter? The poor have their way, and naturally they will have their choice. In this alley full of ideals and future, they can live much more stably than in the place where many forces meet in Plymouth. Here, there is not much official sight, let alone the key forces of Chable giants. Those are all in Plymouth. In this dark port city, there are only various undercurrent transactions under the water. Although Maka is young, she lives a day and night reversal here with her natural intelligence and extraordinary shrewdness. 2 hours ago, he just came back from the colorful night scene. He was sleeping in a slightly old bed. There are a few more cargo ships on the dock. Where can he control them? Just as he was wandering in his beautiful dream, there was a sudden sound of beating his wings outside the curtain, as if something had fallen on the narrow windowsill outside. Dong dong dong, it seemed that birds were pecking at the window frame, and the dull sound came through the curtains. In her sleep, Maka frowned and didn't wake up. He turned over and the quilt was pulled to his head to cover his head. Dong dong dong, there were 3 soft sounds again, like knocking at the door, which made people care about what was tossing outside. Dong dong, bang. 3 more times, maybe the last one was crooked or something. The old window glass immediately delivered its mission, and the glass fragments fell to the ground. If it hadn't been for the curtain cloth, it's estimated that the glass residue would have splashed all over the bed by now. The shabby quilt was suddenly lifted, and Maka sat up with her eyes staring. Maybe he hasn't woken up yet. I saw him looking around. He was confused, which made people laugh. Suddenly, Maka, who was stunned, opened the curtain, but she was stunned. Outside the window, a light gray owl was standing there, with big eyes connected with Maka's line of sight. Not long ago, the owl actually tilted its head and gave a dry cry. It seemed that it was not very interesting about its mistake. Maka blinked twice and didn't know what to do for a moment. Because he found that he actually saw the intelligence that only humans can show in an owl. Is owl's IQ so high? Maka found that she was a little suspicious of the trend of life. Goo. Just as Maka was full of question marks, the owl gave a soft cry, then stretched out its left claw and put a letter on the edge of the windowsill. The address was written in emerald green ink on the heavy parchment envelope. There was no stamp on the envelope. Macaron gave a moment, reached out and picked it up. There was a fiery red wax seal and a shield badge on it. Around the capital letter H, lions, eagles, badgers and snakes account for a quarter of each. At the top of the coat of arms, there is a strange and familiar word for Maka. Hog, what's? Maka spelled out the word, his tone full of surprise and confusion. Instead of opening the envelope in a hurry, he stared at the shield, but his thoughts drifted farther and farther. It was quite a while before he regained his consciousness that he silently left the envelope on the bed, curled up and held his head tightly with his pale and thin arms. The dull black hair drooped disorderly between his fingers, as if telling the dark and bitter past of these years. It's only now, for a long time, Maka squeezed out a depressed groan from her dry throat. It's ridiculous. A sea breeze suddenly blew in outside the window, making it cold. Yes, Toboint in June is still a time that has nothing to do with the heat. The sun gradually rose a little, and the sun brought a trace of warmth to the coastal town. Maka sat on the roof slope outside the window, leaning against the outer wall of the attic, looking at the glittering surface of the Tama River. The rising sun rises from the junction of water and sky, plating the blue river with a layer of shining gold. This is a rare sight for Maka, who walks in the streets late at night all year round. He stared at the distance in a daze, but he clung to the unopened letter in his hand. This letter is so light, but Maka always feels the weight it weighs on her heart. The envelope was gently torn open, and two pieces of fairly textured stationery were neatly folded together and pulled out by Maka. He pinched a corner of the letter and rattled. The beautiful handwriting gave him a wonderful sense of unreal. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry President Albus Dumbledore, President of the International Federation of Witches and Wizards, First-Class Magician of the Merlin Jazz Regiment. Dear Mr. Marka McLean, we are pleased to inform you that you have been admitted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. A list of books and equipment required is enclosed. The term is scheduled to begin on September 1st. We will wait for the owl to bring back your reply before July 31. In addition, if the owl needs to stay with you for a while, please feed the little guy something to eat. Maka repeated the contents of the letter several times before turning to the next page, but before he looked more, he closed his mouth and stuffed the letter back into the envelope. Yes, I have to spend money. Maka whispered, tuition is free, miscellaneous fees are unavoidable, I should have thought of it. He sighed, climbed back into the attic with a sullen look on his face, pulled out some gray papers from the small cabinet beside the bed and threw them on the counter. Then he pulled down a dirty and dusty suitcase from the bottom of the bed, opened it with a click, regardless of the dust, and pulled out a long strip-shaped small box from it. This is a pen. Although it is not a good brand, it is the only birthday gift left to him by his long-dead mother. It is also the most cherished treasure in his life except sterling. By the way, we need more ink. Ink. He muttered as he prepared to write a reply. Not far away, the pale gray owl was standing on the bed bar with its head tilted, looking curiously at Maka's busy. Although I'm a little rusty with the pen, I haven't forgotten how to spell words. Maka's memory is very good, which can be seen from the fact that he secretly remembers a large number of piecemeal pounds on weekdays, but it is inevitable that the letters written are crooked. To this end, he finally wrote several pieces of paper watching the owl fly out of the window and soon disappear around the corner. Maka's heart was a little calmed. He really did not expect that he would see a miraculous dawn when he made up his mind to sink into the dark side of Britain in all kinds of despair. What he did not expect was that this ray of miracle light was related to Hogwarts, which was almost buried in his memory. Hogwarts, ha! Maka chewed the word again, revealing a pure smile from her heart that had been buried with her dead mother in the old tomb in Plymouth. Just when Maka was thinking about her not far future, the boy who survived the disaster just woke up in the cupboard under the stairs at number 4 Privet Drive, Little Huijean District, Surrey. What is waiting for him will be a chaotic life disturbed by the unexpected visitor. For Maka in the past, more than 2 months may be an ordinary life course. But now, everything has become very different. Maka said goodbye to the small attic that accompanied him for 3 years, and to Uncle Angelou, the bar owner who gave him his first job. He sold everything he could sell to his frequent bootleggers on the black market, and then took the ferry to Plymouth with all the pounds he had earned so far and his renewed expectations. Only when he arrived at Plymouth could he catch the train to London and embark on his new journey of life. Go and see mother first, murmured Maka, leaning against the fence at the edge of the ferry deck and looking across the Tama River. The time of rippling in the Tama River is not too long, and the distance between the two banks of the river is not far in fact. Before long, Maka was standing in a slightly messy cemetery. At that time, Maka, who was only 9 years old, spent the last money left by her father and set up a tombstone for her mother, which was a luxury for him at that time. Not for anything else, just because it was the first time for him to admit this woman who was always busy for money. Mother Maka stroked the tombstone cleaned by him. Even at noon, it was still surprisingly cold. It seems that this is the second time I call you mother. He paused and then said, to tell you the truth, I can't call you that naturally up to now. I don't know whether I should call you that, or I don't know if I am qualified. But, anyway, now, you are my mother. My mother. Well, I know. It still doesn't sound straightforward, but at least if I call, you'll make do with it for the time being. It seems that because of the atmosphere, or the feelings and thoughts in the past 3 years, Maka said it intermittently for a long time. It was not until dusk that he got up, patted his pants, sighed, and planned to find a cheaper hotel for the night, and then take the train to London in the city centre tomorrow. Just as he looked back, a touch of light gold flashed in his vision. Under the setting sun, it emits unique brilliance. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.